I get minimum 1,000 comments per post, every post, doesn't matter what the post is. Heck, my community stays there for 15, 20 minutes per post. Those are the types of posts that will consistently get good engagement, consistently get good reach. We're booked out 6 months in advance. That's how I can prove that this actually works.
Help us write better. What do we need to do? What are the common mistakes that you see people do? Let's correct for those, because I think that's where a lot of value is going to be unlocked here.
So here's a writing hack for LinkedIn, if you will. Hack, for the lack of a better term. Focus on the first 3 lines of text, including spaces. Why 3? Why not 2? Why not 1? Why not just the first line, Jay, right? Because that's exactly where LinkedIn cuts it off. That's where the preview of your post gets cut off. And if you don't believe me, scroll through your main feed or go to your own profile. Check the posts that are actually shown, your latest posts. LinkedIn always shows 3 lines of text, including spaces. My stats, my analytics show me that whenever I write my hook, my first sentence, as a 2-liner, I get a 20% drop, a decrease in overall reach, engagement, so on and so forth. But there's a reason for that, Chris. It's because I then don't get to share my second sentence with my audience. Because my first sentence is a 2-liner, the third line essentially is an empty space. The second sentence is the 4th line in order. And LinkedIn doesn't show 4, it shows 3. We've already said that. So make sure, that's step number 1, that your hooks are always 1-liners. And also your rehooks, your second line, we call it a rehook. Watch the first video with Chris, by the way, if you want to learn more about the rehook strategy. I'm not going to get into that. The first video covers it really well. So first lesson, keep your hooks as 1-liners always, because then you get this added opportunity to give additional information in the second sentence of your post. Think about it from this perspective. If your readers could only read the first 3 lines, literally just those first 3 lines, what would you want them to know? And this is where a lot of those clickbaity tactics fall into water, drop dead. They don't work. Here's why: because your audience has no idea what they're going to read about, and because they feel like there's a gimmicky approach to it, this salesy, this clickbaity approach, they might not even click on see more, and they will never read the end of your post. They will never read the rest of your post, let alone till the end of it. That's where the value lies, because when they finally click on the see more button, the human brain is now primed to read till the end. They already have the value in the first 3 lines, so the rest of it is by default. They literally just easily read till the end.
Give me a couple of more examples, either from yourself or somebody you've coached, where we're looking at these 3 lines and there's just, we need more examples. I think a couple more would be fantastic.
I have a really good one that I've been testing out.
Okay.
So Chris, I like to say that you can write super good content, but that content is not necessarily unique. Here's what I mean by that. You see so many great educational posts in the feed, right? Like I write them, you write them yourself, we all do them. The problem is, my question is always, am I really inside of that post? Like, where am I, the expert, inside of what I've just written? As experts, we feel so pushed, so motivated to share the knowledge that we forget to tell people how we actually know it. There's this thing we do in writing called signposting. Signposting is essentially, you're just giving these mini hints to your reader about how you know this information. Let me give you an example, Chris. You've seen this particular post 1,000,000 times in the feed. As a CEO, you're expected to stay on 24/7. Your morning routine is probably the most crucial part of your day. So here are 7 psychological, science-based tactics to blah, 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 improve your morning routine. Cool. That post is now going to give me 7 tactics and done. Whose post is that, Chris? Like, anyone could have posted that. Anyone in the world could have literally published that post. Now, let's go back at the very beginning and let's take a look at what we forgot to say to our reader. We forgot to tell them how we know this information. And it's dead simple. All you need is 1 sentence, heck, half a sentence, where you hint at your experience, at your job, at your role, at what you do. So here's how that looks like. As a CEO, you're expected to stay on 24/7. I've been managing teams for the last 20 years, and I know how excruciating it is to wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and have to work up until 6 or 7 on a daily basis. here are 7 science-based blah, 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 blah. But what we've just said before that proves our entire case. That point literally says to the reader, you can't find this particular post anywhere else. That's what makes it unique. You can't Google it. You literally can't possibly Google it. There's a much deeper brain reaction to this that says, I trust this person because they told me how they know it.
Do you put the signposting in the 3 lines, or it's after you add more?
I quite literally put several signposts in every single post, Chris. And at this point, it's like muscle memory for me. Like I try to remind the reader that I'm the expert. I'm the madman, the mad scientist on LinkedIn who does all these things and tests things out for all of us, right? So you don't have to. So that when you read the post, you're like, oh, I trust this guy wholeheartedly 100%. And then the bonus is when you finally try the information, like the actual lesson I'm teaching you, it works. And then you're like, oh, I trust him even more. I've noticed that whenever there's a really good combination of longer reading time plus people staying on the post right after they read it. So they're not just swiping, liking, and continuing to swipe like to another post. They're swiping, liking, staying on the post to comment. And because I have my entire pinned comment strategy, we can actually get into that. People are staying for longer on the posts. And those types of posts where a person isn't just doing one action, they're actually staying for 30, 40 seconds, or sometimes 3-4 minutes. Heck, my community stays there for 15, 20 minutes per post. Those are the types of posts that will consistently get good engagement, consistently get good reach, and you don't have this fluctuation in your analytics bar.
Let's give them more tactical things they can do. You mentioned something about pinned comments. What is that about?
So pinned comments are literally the backbone of my community on LinkedIn. To give you context, I get minimum 1,000 comments per post. Every post, doesn't matter what the post is, 1,000 comments are going to be there, 2,000 comments are going to be there. One of those commenting strategies is what I call pinned comments. Pinned commenting as a strategy, here's what it boils down to. You never essentially end your post with the post. You always push your audience to stay and engage and talk to other people, other potential clients, other prospects, find opportunities, find new hires, just find new ways to engage with the network that they currently have. And what I like to post underneath those posts is BTS stuff. So if I'm publishing on a Friday and I'm literally just about to walk on stage in an hour, or I've just walked off stage, and here I am religiously, doing my 12:30 post, and I'm there and I'm engaging. I literally share a selfie. I'm like, hey guys, I just walked off stage. I was talking about AI and writing, blah, blah, blah. Here's a photo. What do you think about AI? Do you use AI? So always make it inviting. Ask a question. Another one that I really, really like to do is bonus points or bonus lessons. Here, what I typically do is fairly easy. I repurpose older posts, and it's quite literally just copy pasting it, shortening it so it doesn't feel like this huge, huge chunk of text. So just the main lesson. So if I'm writing a post, for example, about the pinned commenting strategy, I'll find other 2 or 3 posts about some sort of conversation around commenting, and I'll post those as bonus points, as bonus lessons. So bonus number 1, my 1+3 commenting strategy. Never comment only once, comment 4 times. 1 as the main comment, 3 more replies to your ICPs who you find in the comments. Bonus lesson, why not? And then people are like, oh my God, the value just never stops, never stops, never stops. I like to do calls to action, right? Calls to sales, calls to download, calls to subscribe in the comments itself. I feel like it's a very sleazy way to do content when you write this beautiful story or you write this beautiful educational piece. And then at the very end of that post, so just think of the psychological journey of your reader. They've read your post, and it's about X topic. And then at the very bottom, you have this footer that says, oh, and if you want me to do the same for you, DM me. It's like they've just read something and you've just told them, forget about it. The post wasn't about this in the first place. I'm just trying to sell you something. So why not keep the post to what it is, to what it's supposed to communicate, but keep the salesy part in the comments. And I've always done this, Chris. I've never written to the point where I've never written a sales post in my life. I've never written a case study post. I've never written a testimonial post, and I don't need to sell. And how do I prove that? Because we're booked out 6 months in advance. That's how I can prove that this actually works. You don't need to sell in your content. to be able to sell from your content. What I like to do is free Q&As. So Q&As in the comments are the backbone of my community and why people have so much trust in my content and in my business, why we're booked out, why we're launching this community now, the paid community, finally after years in the first place. It's because they know they can count on the value at any point, at any time during the day. And I'm not afraid to share. I'm not afraid to overshare. And I feel like every single expert on LinkedIn should be like this. I am a very strict person when it comes to my schedule, and I apply the same principle to my LinkedIn. I literally have a LinkedIn hour in my work calendar. And this is what I coach to every client who comes to me and they say, I'm a CEO, I'm a manager, I have a team of 20, 200 people. I can't be on LinkedIn all the time. Sure, but how long can you potentially be on LinkedIn? If they say 30 minutes, I'll tell them, put those 30 minutes in your work calendar. Trust me, it makes a world of a difference. For me, that version is 60 minutes every single day. So my schedule looks something like I post at 12:30 and I will 100% of the time stay at least until 1:30 religiously, 1 hour every single time. So that's my engagement hour. I know when I'm posting, people can count on me to stay. People can count on me to respond to their comment. People can count on actual conversations being had right underneath the post in that first hour at the very least. The activity itself is kind of part of the business, and I enjoy it. I love it. It builds the community. It builds the business. It gets us leads every single day almost. And when you treat it like that, very strictly, you never get overwhelmed. I don't know if I should be sharing this for free. Heck, we're here. Let's do it. So you know how I mentioned those case study posts?
Yeah.
Right? Typically, they start off with, here's how we helped X client do this, right? And then the problem with those case study posts is they're typically very niche because the client, it has to be in a very specific niche. They have a very specific problem. Sure, the problem may be relatable, but you're still talking about only that one client. And my question is, why should I care? Unless I'm 90% similar to that client in nature, in business, in my business size, my revenue, I'm not going to care. And that is the very reason why case study posts don't get a whole lot of engagement on LinkedIn. Why? Because people don't care because it's not relatable. So what I do in my content and what I teach every client to do, signposting, see what I've just done? So what I do in all of my posts and what I teach every client to do is treat the first 3 lines, even when you're writing the case study posts, as an educational post, not a case study post. So insert a very relatable lesson in the first 3 lines, but the goal is to kill the niche. Here's what I mean by that, Chris. If you're someone who wants people to learn about this very specific result you've achieved in this very specific industry, simply by stating the industry in the hook, you're going to lose people. You're going to alienate them. Example, you have a client in the aviation industry. If I'm not in the aviation industry, I don't care how many followers I have. I don't care about that post because you're literally telling me this is not for you. This is only for the people in aviation and only for similar clients like these. This is not for you, regular follower, regular network member, right? So what we do is we kill all mentions of niche language, any sort of mention. So focus on the problem. That's put the problem in the actual hook. So if we're talking about this particular client having churn problems or customer retention problems, right? What is the main message that we're trying to communicate about that problem? We can say, it's easy to acquire customers. It's harder to keep them. That's the hook because that's the main message of the post. But see what we've done? We haven't used the word aviation once. Like there's no mention of any niche. Super broad, super relatable. Now, the second line goes something like, any business can find themselves in this situation. Again, super relatable, super broad. Everyone and their mother essentially can relate to these first 3 lines. But that's where now, 10 minutes ago, when we were talking about brain triggers and how the human brain sort of amplifies trust in those first 3 lines, that's what's going on here now. Because you've now read these 3 lines, I don't care if I'm a student. I don't care if I'm someone who's been in the business for 40 years. I don't care if I'm in the fashion industry. I don't care if I'm in the fast food industry. I care about that post because it relates to me. The message The problem relates to me. Now, when I click see more, Chris, I can literally continue with my case study. I can literally use any niche example I want. It doesn't matter what it is. I can continue with aviation. Your brain will care. You will continue reading because the beginning is relatable. That's all you care about. You feel like, I feel this. So if the more niche the example is, the more interesting the post is actually going to be. I don't know if we mentioned this in the previous episode, but if I'm reading your post and I'm investing 20, 30 seconds of my life's worth time into reading your post, don't make me invest another 30 or 40 or 60 thinking about what I'm going to comment. Make it easy for me to comment. How? Ask a question at the very end of your post. It's that simple. Every single time someone asks me like, hey, I'm writing really good content, I'm achieving growth, but I'm getting likes, but I'm not getting a whole lot of comments. And I take one look at their posts, Chris, and the ending, it's not inviting at all.
This is wonderful. Of course, we have to ask questions at the end, but people don't ask really good questions. So give us examples of bad questions to ask, medium kind of questions, and then great questions to ask, because I see them doing the strategy, but they're just terrible questions.
I agree 100%. So here's an example of a very bad question to ask. Open-ended answers that make me think and go down a trip down memory lane. Example, I'm writing a post about a particular failure in my life, how I failed my agency, my business, whatever. And then I ask you at the very end, P.S., what's your biggest failure story? Let me think about it. What is it, right? And I spent 30 seconds. There was this one. Yeah, perfect. And then I spent 30 seconds already thinking about it. You can't count on everyone doing the same thing. But then as a bonus, I have to spend another 30 or 60 writing my freaking long failure story. No, that's a bad example. Some people actually do it on purpose because they feel like, no, I want more thoughtful responses. I'm like, sure, but ask those in the pinned comments. Ask the deeper questions in the pinned comments. Ask the simpler questions in the main post.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. A middle example of this would be to ask something that's quantitative, but it doesn't provide any additional context. For example, if I ask you, how much money have you made last quarter? Sure, it's an easy answer, but like, what's the value? Like, what's the point of me asking you that question, right? A better question would be, are you above or below your goals this month? Simple answer again. I know if I'm in the red, if I'm in the green, but then it pushes me to give you the why. Like it pushes me as the commenter to justify myself, right? So that's a much better example.